Hi there, welcome to the Chez Davis podcast. I'm Brendan Davis, which is half of Chez Davis, with my wife Susie being the other half. And if you're new here, this podcast is a unfiltered behind the scenes talk about what's happening in our lives, as well as things with the channel, what we're working on, some reflections on the content past, and also what we're thinking about and what's coming up for the future. We talk about this with a bit more focus on the lives that we do on Wednesday afternoon. But the podcast is really meant to be like a live. It's very unedited. I don't expect to make any edits in this. We'll see how it goes. If the doorbell rings and I have to go get the doorbell, I won't make you sit here and stare at an empty screen for 5 minutes. But I want to say hi to our longtime listeners and viewers, and also welcome to the new people. We had a lot of new people come in this week, so welcome. And if you like a longer form chat, this is the thing that we do that's along those lines. And because of timing and logistics, usually this is just me. So far, it's just me on the podcast. Susie will join when schedule allows, or if she has something she just wants to do this. But she kind of gets this out of her system on the lives, according to her. So I want to first say, we have a really big week ahead. I'll talk about that as we go. And we had a really big week last week, a really, really fun week. And one programming note is that our Wednesday live, the time keeps shifting around a little bit because of logistics. Our daughter is going to a new daycare now, and there's an adaptation period, an on-ramp, where there are progressively longer and longer amounts of time where we're there with her and she's home. And so depending on her nap on Wednesday, we're going to do it at 3 p.m. Paris time, which, if we're lucky, should be a Jenny nap time. So it would be Susie and me both. And if not, you may get just me again. So we'll talk about that. And just a practical note is my notes are over here on the laptop, my outline, so that I stay on track here and don't wander off into tangents, which if you have heard me do these before, you know that sometimes that comes up. It's usually related to the channel and what we're, kind of things we talk about. But this will help me stay on focus. So first, what's coming up this week, looking forward. So this podcast went live at 6 p.m. Tuesday Paris time. So you're either watching it shortly after 6 p.m. Paris time or later. But these podcasts will always, with the asterisk that always is a long time. So theoretically, these will always come out Wednesdays at 6 Paris time. Our live, as I mentioned, will be 3 p.m. this week. And if you can't catch it live, the replay will go up right after. I'm not delaying those. They automatically, you can join in progress and it will loop around, etc. The time shifted is because of the adaptation for the new daycare that we're dealing with. And then Friday, that's our segment that we're calling Fun Friday, because why not? So the Fun Friday this week will be the long delayed hot pot extravaganza. It's our East meets West hybrid version of a Chinese hot pot that we do with European food choices, but we're using our great authentic hot pot machine that we brought from China. And we did that a few weeks ago in the backyard, and it was a lot of fun. We really enjoyed that so much, but I would enjoy it more if I had someone. This is not throwing shade at Susie at all, but if we had someone who could have done one of the tasks that had to be done, so we'll talk about that. The video will get into that a little bit, but basically, it was a lot of fun chaos with Jenny kind of running around, and she normally loves when we do hot pot. There are certain of the meats and certain of the veggies she really enjoys normally, but it took a long time to set up. By the time we got it ready, she was cranky and she wanted to mostly scream and throw a fit and run around in the yard. And so, so that one is full of, there's, a little food prep where I'm talking about what hot pot normally is versus what we do, and time lapses of some of the setup and stuff. So if you like a fun little time lapse video clip, there are a few of those going in there. And I'm saying this in the future tense because I will be editing that tonight, as I record this Monday afternoon, I'll be editing that tonight and should finish it tomorrow around lunchtime, my time. But it's kind of a fun little behind the scenes, just slice of real life, if you're this, just like suburban life in the suburbs of Paris, and kind of how we do our thing. Sunday, September 7th, 6 p.m. So Sundays at 6 p.m. is when we always release kind of our anchor video of the week. And we'll talk about what we did this last week and the week before. But that's really meant to be sort of our main, focused, the video that if you're subscribed to the channel or you're a regular viewer, it's the kind of video you're most likely here for. Something to do with moving to France, moving, to Europe more broadly. What's it like to live here? What are the practical and logistical setup hassles and hurdles and things you have to deal with? So that's more of what a Sunday video normally is for us. We have one that's really special, and I'm going to tell you more about it because people who watch this, again, if you're new here, welcome, and I hope you enjoy this too. But the people who typically watch and listen to this are our longtime viewers or our more kind of diehard community members, the core folks. And I tend to sort of talk a little bit ahead of what we've said publicly, such that matters right now. But this Sunday will be in the bucket of awesome things you can do if you live in France. And we will be focusing on the NFL International Series. This will be the kickoff to a series of videos that I/we, but mostly I, will do that look at the experience, if you're an American football fan, of going to one of these international games. And Susie and I were lucky to see a game at Wembley in 2023. And it was the Jaguars-Panthers, neither of whom are particularly great teams, and they're not my team. That's my team right there, the Niners. And they're not playing any of these games this year. They played Mexico, I think it was last year, or was it the year before? I forget. I think it was the year before. Time flies when you're getting old and have a baby. But then last year, when my mother and her husband, Ray, were in town visiting for a month, I took them to London for a long weekend. We saw Hamilton, which I've seen a couple times. Brochure from that trip is up there. But we went to Hamilton on Saturday night, and then Sunday my mom, she wanted to explore London and go to Harrods, and she did all that. And then I took Ray to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and we saw the was it the Vikings Jets? I think they played the Vikings, but we saw the Jets lose. We saw Aaron Rodgers just absolutely mount a amazing comeback drive, and if they would have scored, I forget if it would have tied it or won it by one, but he had a turnover right in the red zone. So if you're not an NFL fan, don't worry. These will be really cool travelogues of London. So there's something there, even if you're not a huge NFL fan, but if you are even a casual football fan, I think you'll find this to be a lot of fun. So there are a few other special things we're going to have on this Sunday video, this coming Sunday, September 7th. So it'll be a overview of what it's like to come to these games, even if you're a casual football fan. And I'm like an intermediate level fan, I'm a legit fan. I know enough about the game to appreciate it now, which I didn't. I wasn't a big football guy growing up, although I played football for 1 year in high school badly. I don't even know if I ever played in any games. And that's its own story. I'll save for probably another podcast, but my brief high school football career. But I wasn't a big fan. I was turned off by the sports bro culture and everything, and I still am. It's not my jam. But I got into the Niners by way of my business partner who lives in Palo Alto, and they've been season ticket holders forever to the Niners. I've been to a lot of games, and I really got into it, and I started to appreciate the game, and now I'm a big fan. But these videos will really show you, you'll see like slices of life of London, and I think it'll just be a lot of fun for people. So I will have additional videos later that will be focused on the logistics of dealing with Wembley and the logistics of dealing with Tottenham Hotspur. because if you are going to the games, those are very specific. Now, we're not becoming an NFL channel. Don't hit unsubscribe. Don't be afraid. Our focus is our focus. But these will, after this video Sunday, the subsequent follow-up NFL type videos, they'll slide into the Fun Friday slot. And there will only be a few, but I'm going to do one that specifically, as I said, one about dealing with Wembley and going to a game there with even more footage, because I must have 10 hours or 12 hours of footage between those two games and the back and forth going to and from and the sightseeing around. So those will be timed later, those will be spread out. Those will be timed to those games, which are later in the schedule. But I'm coming up with some kind of cool merch. I don't know if anyone's going to want this. Hopefully so, because it would help the channel. We want to upgrade some of the equipment, and so being able to have something we could offer that people would enjoy owning and buying. I am designing. You can't use NFL logo. You can't use the NFL brand or any team logos. But we're coming up with a bunch of different designs of kind of fun, cool shirts, hoodies, hats, tote bags, things that people might enjoy. So building out that merch store in time for this release is also on my to-do list this week. But we will have some cool stuff. If you're a football fan in general, you might enjoy some of this stuff. And the vendor, it's a print-on-demand vendor, they have a really good reputation, and so I feel good about that. And the last little football note, so if you're not into football, hang tight, we're almost past this, is that I have watch-alongs planned for all the European NFL games. The first international game is, I believe, September 5th, and that's in Brazil. And time-wise, that'll be like 2:30 in the morning my time. I ain't getting up to watch that game. It's, neither one of the teams are especially into that game. I'll probably watch the 10-minute recap on YouTube of that game, but I probably wouldn't watch that whole game even if it was during the daytime. But for all the European games, there's a game in Dublin is the first one in Europe, and then there are, I believe the exact schedule I forget, but I believe it's Dublin, and then I think it's 2 at Tottenham Hotspur, then Wembley, then Berlin, and then Spain, I believe, in Madrid, I think. But I will do live watch-alongs with those, where I basically, because I can't show the broadcast, you can't hear the audio of it, so it'll be for lonely American football fans who want somebody to watch the game with on there, they're watching the game and then they have the chat window open. And, basically I'll point a camera at me as I watch a game and talk about it and then chat with people. So who knows? I'm going to watch the games anyway. So I figured, why not turn the camera on? And there might be a few people who enjoy, even just dropping in and out. And maybe you have to disappear for a while and come back and you want to know what happened. You could ask in the chat, because I'm going to be locked in. So that'll be a lot of fun. And those watch-alongs will be sort of bonus content. So we'll still have our regular programming for you. For those of you who don't care anything about football, don't worry. This isn't replacing a video that you might otherwise like. It just means that I get even less sleep, but that's okay. So next Sunday, the Sunday after this Sunday, September 14th, we'll look back at the videos that have come out in the last week or two. But Sunday, September 14th is the follow-up. We're already going to do the follow-up to the Susie residence card drama video. Drama No More is the update. She got the text yesterday she got the text on, I take that back, on Friday, that her residence card was ready and to make an appointment to go pick it up. So awesome. And then she got online and there are no appointments available. And they released them on Monday at 10:30 a.m. is what we found out, because today at 10:31 a.m. she was able to book an appointment. So you're seeing this. If you see this when it comes out, it's Tuesday night our time. Our Thursday morning, we will be at the prefecture to pick up Susie's residence card. So super happy about that. I mean, for all the reasons, obviously it helps to have proof of her status here, right? So it's not like a questionable thing. We don't have to worry that there's going to be some issue. It unlocks job opportunities, and she's in the mix for a job right now, fingers crossed. But if that doesn't happen, there are several opportunities she's missed because she didn't have that. And we talked about this. She talks about it in the video that we've done already. And I talked about it at length in the live last week, so I won't belabor the point. But a lot of employers don't want to deal with the intermediate documents that you can get until you have the physical cards. So it unlocks work opportunities. It unlocks making travel easier, because I was going to send her for job training for this potential job would be in London. So she got a UK visa, and I was going to send her with giant dossier of paperwork proving her status. And now she just needs her card. She needs her passport and her card. And then just the security of all of this. So it's a really big relief that we have that coming. And we're going to do a video all about that. So I'll be filming like a madman on the way, and not inside the place, but before and after of the picking up of the residence card finally. So because these are unedited, like I said, barring a calamity, I'll occasionally have a sip of beverage. And my ketogenic diet with intermittent fasting, I'm on a fasting day, so I know this stuff is nasty, but it tastes good. But I know it's a chemical concoction, but a little sugar-free Monster energy drink. Again, we're not sponsored yet, although Monster could sponsor me, because I kind of live on these and black coffee and a lot of water. I drink a ton of water, and Coke Zero. I live on that stuff on fasting days. So last week, let's do us a quick look back. So the roaming retirement interview with Brandy and Todd. I'm so happy that they agreed to be our first guests for that. I've been wanting to do a interview series. I'd considered, again, this format's where I stretch out and tell you a little bit of a story. I'll try to keep the story to the short end. But years ago, I had other podcasts, and I mentioned that on the first one of these. But those podcasts were when I was an expat in China, and so they all had, to different degrees, China focused. The two of them specifically are very China focused. The third one was much more entertainment industry focused, and it was more global. But different degrees of success, but especially the main China podcast was pretty popular for a while, and we also had a consulting business, me and my Chinese partner, on that. So I really enjoyed it. You can probably tell from this, it's easy for me to do this. It's easy for me to turn on a mic and I pull my own string and off I go. And especially if I'm interviewing somebody, I have an outline of questions, I know what I want to know, I know what I want to get into, and then see where the conversation goes, what they offer up. I love to do that. And I considered doing another podcast, just unrelated to this channel, etc. I considered doing a new entertainment podcast because I have a lot of thoughts. Without going down that rabbit hole, the film industry, which is my business, is going through yet another, it's in the middle of a big series of changes, and there's a big upheaval in terms of everything. And I, talking to friends and colleagues and reading other blogs and posts from people who are sort of, opinion leaders on this topic in my business, I thought there might be a little bit of a niche for me, but there aren't enough hours in the day. And Susie and I both want this channel to grow and be something that we're proud of. It takes a lot of time and a lot of work, a lot of effort, but we really enjoy doing it. And the response that we get from you, it truly makes it worth it. And I don't have enough. I would have enough hours if I cut something short. It would either mean, you may not miss this podcast. I think the lives, for the people who watch them, they're popular. It's not a ton of people watch those. The people who watch them like them, and we have a lot of great comments, and that's where we answer your questions. So don't really want to cut this podcast, although this is probably the most expendable thing, but you tell me, would you be sad if this disappeared? Let me know, for real. But I get enough people commenting on this that I know that the people who like it, which is part of why I enjoy doing it. But we don't want to lose the live. Obviously, the Sunday video is kind of the video that most people are here to see. And then the Friday videos are fun, and there are people who come just to see that sort of thing. That will also, that the Friday videos will include like fun travel related things and dining out, whatnot. So don't want to lose anything on this channel. And plus I have my actual business, my actual career. I'm have my own film company that trying to get off the ground with a few projects, and I'm a partner in the company in the US, and that's the company producing the big project I'm the producer for that. That's the big project that brought us to Paris in the first place. So there just aren't enough hours in the day to do a good job with everything, in addition to family, right? Because I'm a super hands-on dad, as Susie is an incredibly hands-on mom. So I decided, not to do a podcast outside of anything here, which is why you have this. But the interviews, that's the part of the podcast that I specifically was missing, because this is fun, and this is, again, for those of you who like to watch this is something that you get some value from. And so doing the interview series was high on the list, and Brandy and Todd was roaming retirement, to get back to the point 5 minutes later. They were perfect, we talked about this a lot already, but their channel, the YouTube algorithm from their video about learning French after 50 was pointing to us more than any other video. So, and they were wonderful. And Susie was asking me earlier, because that video is, doing really well. Lots of people are watching it. They're watching a lot of it. So the engagement is great with that video. And when I was saying to Susie earlier, I was kind of updating her, hey, the Brandy and Todd video, people are really liking this, and we're getting a lot of subscribers from them, and you may be one of them. So again, welcome. I knew that we had a lot of overlap. It wasn't a mystery to me that there should be a lot, because we're very sympathetic. The difference is that we're working and they're retired, and they don't have a kid, and we have a toddler, and they're in Nice and we're in the suburbs of Paris. So there are a few differences, but we have more in common than we have not in common. So, Susie was saying, why do you think it is? And that it's so popular, why their channel is so popular, because their channel is also, they're a month and a half older than us, and they have like 5,000 plus subscribers. And I said, well, there are a lot of reasons. I think one, Nice is just gorgeous. And so in the film business, when you show up to a location, when you're first figuring out what the shot should be, and you're like, where do we set the camera? There's an old saying. It's like, basically the camera could fall off the truck and it's a postcard, because wherever you point the camera, it's gorgeous. And I'm sure there are places you don't want to look at in Nice as well, but it's gorgeous. The lighting is amazing. The light is amazing. The natural light. I feel like, I haven't been to Nice, so I'm kind of talking out of my, what here, but my feeling from looking at their videos and lots of other videos, it looks a lot like Southern California light to me. So, which is part of why among the many reasons why Los Angeles became the filmmaking capital of the world, and, still is for some things. But the light is just amazing, and the weather is amazing in Southern California. You can shoot outdoors 300 plus days a year. So that was a huge benefit to it. But I think that Brandy and Todd, most of all, they represent, for their audience, they're probably very, very much like the person, I think that their average viewer, and if you were one of them, you can confirm in the comments, please. I think their average viewer is probably very similar to them in terms of people who are at the point where they could retire. They're either pre-retirees or they are retired, and they love France, and so they're looking to come here. And then, of course, as I said, Nice being gorgeous is sort of part of that same thought. So I think that they're probably very, very, very similar to their target audience. And Susie and I, being a multicultural couple from two very polar opposite cultures, frankly, and then living in a third culture that's closer to mine, but it's still pretty different. And then having the baby, and, and I'm trying to build, I'm trying to do a lot of things. I don't even talk about it that much on this channel relative to how much it's the reality of my life about my actual film career. And, she's working extra hard on learning French. And so lots of different pieces of our story are very relatable. But I feel like with Brandy and Todd, the majority of what they're talking about, it's relatable or it's aspirational for people who can see themselves in them. So very pleased. And, we're hoping that opens the door. I'm hoping that the success of that interview opens the door to getting more people to agree to be interviewed here on this channel by me and Susie. And I have a list. I'll talk about that a little bit in the future plans, part of this outline that I'm peeking at. So also this last week, just Sunday, just as I record this, just last night, not even 24 hours ago, the healthcare costs video comparing U.S. versus French healthcare costs, that came out. Already a lot of, some comments, people very interested in those comparisons. And I have links. I actually had to stop myself after 10 or 12 links that I put in the video of here where these numbers came from. Because if you just hear me talking about it, it would be easy to think, is that real? That can't be real. That can't be right. If you don't know one or the other system. But wow. There's some stuff I know is in American things I've dealt with in the U.S. and now I've dealt with it here. So I appreciate the difference. But, never had a baby before. All those childcare costs, all the OBGYN just visits and stuff. And the midwife visits and what a midwife is, because in the U.S. we don't really have that category as I talk about. They're normally like an alternative to a doctor to help you do like an alternative or home birth or something. And here they're like a part of the system and they have all these subspecialties. So a lot of interest so far in that video, and I am glad that was interesting. Just a little production note, and this podcast is also where I talk about kind of things like this. I'm using Adobe Premiere Pro to do all my editing. And because I've been a professional editor for a long time, it's not what I do for a living, but I used to, and I've done it for 30 odd years. There's some weird little glitches on some of the titles, like the text that has the yellow background. There were some places I didn't see on my MacBook screen where I'm editing everything, in the window within that screen where I'm editing. I guess when you make the titles, if you have the title tool active and you click anywhere, it'll create another like placeholder title for you to type in what you want to write. And even though there's nothing typed, there are places where I click the screen and it created a space and made like a little yellow dot. So there are a couple of random yellow dots. This is sort of like an Easter egg thing if you watch that video, but that's why that one's got a few random little things in it. But I'm very happy with the edit otherwise, and it irritates me that it's not perfect because it's a lot of work, and I want it to be perfect. I want all these to be as good as they can be. So that's what that is. And a super quick sidebar. If you're interested, I won't go on about it now. If you're interested in just how we make the channel, let me know. Again, leave a comment. If you're curious about the nuts and bolts and mechanics of like software we use, things like that, happy to talk about it. I just heard Susie and the baby get back from running to the grocery store, I think. Maybe not. That would be fast. I waited to start recording the second they left. I don't think they're back. I think this is technically a duplex, what they call a pavilion in French, but I almost never heard the neighbor, but I think that was the neighbor. I got my window open for a little airflow here. Let me make sure we're still recording. I'm just paranoid enough. Yes, success. We are still recording. And keeping with the ethos of this being a low lift, I don't think I'm going to cut that out, so bear with me. So, healthcare video, glad it answered some questions. I said something in the description along the lines of, basically, if you're an American, some of this might outrage you. It'll probably amaze European people to see the U.S. costs spelled out in black and white, and Americans might go, wow, we're getting ripped off. Wow, I do hear them. Wow, that was fast. I don't know if you can hear them. The software I use for the sound, I'm recording the sound. I'm not using the sound from the camera here from my phone. I record on this mic into Logic Pro, and then I do a bunch of processing to get rid of background sound. So it's possible you don't hear the slamming of doors and baby cry. She's not crying at the minute, but anyway, if you do, that means that the AI-based software plugins reach their limits of what I can do. But the previous Sunday was Susie's residence card drama video. A lot of people really engaged with that, and we appreciate the support. There were a lot of helpful tips, and people offered suggestions, and hey, did you know this, etc. All that's appreciated. And as I mentioned, very happily, we will have an update sooner than we planned. So we'll have that update. That'll come out again September 14th. But again, it's a huge relief. Huge relief. It lets us move forward with a lot of other things in our life, and we'll sleep better at night with her having that. So lastly, in terms of looking back, is last week's live. It was an epic 2-hour solo Brendan show. Wasn't the plan. The plan was for her to do it with me, but Jenny wasn't getting ready for her nap, and it was time to start. And so Susie said, why don't I, before I move everything upstairs where we do those lives normally, she said, why don't you just do it in the office and I'll join if I can. And she never was able to join. So I'm not going to do 2 hours on the lives if it's solo. I'm going to plan to hit viewer comments quicker. That's my note that I want to be sure to tell you, is that on the lives, because I'm doing a bit of the recap and looking ahead stuff here with some added commentary. On the lives, the viewer comments, answering those comments, those questions in the comments, that's really, for me, that's why we thought to do it in the first place, in addition to sharing a little behind the scenes, me and Susie vibe. So yeah, we're going to get to the viewer comments quickly, and then that way, if there's sort of free range Brendan wandering off into conversational circles, you will got what you need, and you can bail if I'm getting tedious. So sip a beverage. So, building the channel, what are our future plans? So first of all, roaming retirement. I do plan to start reaching out to some other people for follow-up interviews. And I'll let you in on a little secret. I don't have anybody lined up yet. But I'll let you in another secret, is I absolutely have a wish list. And I have a lot of thoughts about this, and so I'm curious for you to hear my thoughts, and then again, let me know in the comments who you would like me to interview. And if you've watched The Roaming Retirement, you see that kind of my style and the sorts of questions I've asked so far. I want to interview Lucille. Her handle is Lucille with 2 L's, like Lucile and then HR. I don't know what HR stands for. That's one thing I would ask her, but that's her on YouTube. She's a French girl with an American boyfriend of, I think, 8 years from watching her videos. And she herself has been an expat in America. They've traveled all over the place and traveled throughout America, but she lived in America. And she's a pretty young French woman. She seems to be in her later 20s, mid to late 20s, I guess. And I love her channels. She's so fun. She's funny, really personable, and she packs a lot in. Her videos have a lot of great information, and she'll have historical context for something. She'll point out something that's interesting or unusual in France, in Paris, in the culture, architecture, rules, customs, and then she'll have a reference to how it came to be, and then how it adapted, if that's relevant, and then present day reality and how you deal with it. Her channel is just a lot of fun, and I really enjoy it, and I think she'd be really interesting to talk to. So I want to talk to actual French people who have the experience of being expats, or who have traveled extensively abroad, even if they never lived abroad. I want to get them on there and get thoughts about their experience, and also their tips for potential people moving to France. Baguette Bound. we have not met yet, but their channel and ours are probably the most similar. In all my looking on YouTube, they seem to be the channel that's the most similar to what Susie and I are doing. And we have the most amount of overlap, I would say, but we also have very key major differences. So I intend to reach out properly to those folks and say hello and send them the link to this. So if you are part of their community and you want to give me a little recommendation, I'd really appreciate it, so that it's not totally cold. I'm not doing that this week. My plan, so is I want to do one of the interview videos basically once a month. And if they can be more frequent, that's cool, because people like them, they're fun to do. And there's obviously value, based on this one, but also me watching them. I know Bag It Bound, for instance, they have interviewed a lot of people as well. So, and there are lots of folks I'd love to talk to. I could go on and on, but I won't right now. But, I'm sharing more of these details because, again, listening to the podcast, you're more of the core community here. So I kind of let it all hang out a little bit more than I would otherwise. So in terms of that NFL international content, looking at my notes, so there is some overlap with the main channel's theme, right, about being foreigners abroad in Europe. And for me, as I said at the beginning of this podcast, for me, this fits the channel in sort of you sort of have like in filmmaking or story, like professional storytelling, you sort of have like your A story, like the main thing that the main plot of what the thing's about. Then you have your B story, which is the secondary thing something's about. And then you have like additional, but typically you think in terms of A and B and then C story. And the C story supports A and B. It's often color, commentary. It sort of adds color and perspective to one or both of the main stories. The B story should add depth to the main story, the A story, and the C should add depth to both of those in color and character. So to me, the NFL international stuff, it definitely fits, like I said, it's like the fun Friday, the culture, cool things you can do being based in Europe, specifically in Paris, because we're so close to Charles de Gaulle Airport, and actually Orly Airport is also close to us here. It's easy to get to Gare du Nord or to any of the train stations. With Gare du Nord, you have the Eurostar to London, you have the TGV high-speed trains, and the trains that run throughout Europe. Within 2 hours, you can be in one of like 15, 16 other countries. And that's an amazing benefit of being basically in the the Paris metro area. So, I'm hoping that the NFL stuff, international stuff, doesn't feel too niche. Candidly, it's also part of the idea. I thought this would be cool, but instead of just doing one video about this, I thought, I think there's an audience for this. I think there are people who would enjoy it. It's not our core audience, and so I don't want to mess up our channel just as we're building it here. And as I said, this will be an additional bonus kind of thing, so hopefully it doesn't turn off those of you who don't care at all about football. But I feel like it could help us grow the channel, I feel like it could bring in a lot of new people, and that may be the only thing on our channel they care about. But some of them might find the channel useful otherwise, so we'll see how it goes. I won't know until we do it. That's the tricky thing. You can guess and you can game it out every which way, but there's no way to know until you do it. So we're going to do it, then we'll know. Then you'll see it with me in real time. Whether it's a big hit, I'll talk about it here. If it's a big flop, I'll talk about it here. And hopefully we don't see people fleeing the channel in droves. But it really is kind of a growth play to try to help build the channel, If it feels too off topic, longer term, like I said, I could move that, the subsequent stuff, the watch alongs, I could move that to my personal channel. And if you're really into that, you could follow it there. But, I feel like it can exist here. We just have to see if it makes YouTube really confused, because confusing YouTube doesn't lead to good things for people who make YouTube videos. So, there are, so speaking of my personal channel, it's really my my AKS case, which is a filmmaking term I talk about on the trailer for that channel. AKS, I talk about this, as I mentioned in the channel trailer there. Every department, but particularly the camera department on like a movie, they have all their different cases with their lenses, the lens bodies, all the electronics that go with the cameras, remote controls, all this jazz. And then they have one big case, and it has like a piece of tape and it says AKS. Well, that stands for all kinds of shit, because that's where you dump everything that doesn't fit someplace else. You need it, it's important, but where does it go? It goes in the AKS case. So my personal channel has kind of become my AKS case. It's really the home for like the non-commercial short films and fun little things I've done. It's not the stuff that I do that makes has earned me a living, but it's where like my film The Unwinding lives. There's some music projects on there. And if the live watch-alongs need to fit on there, that's fine. That's fine. I'm not trying to grow that channel. It's been around 19 years. And it is monetized. A few thousand people are subscribers to that channel, and a few videos have gotten a lot of watches, a lot of watches, a lot of views. But I would be happy just to put things like there, and we're sort of in the home stretch here. For instance, one of those things is that my first career. Maybe this is its own video. It probably goes on that channel, but maybe I can do a post about it here. If you're curious about this, you can go check that out. Like I did about the film, I did a small little community post about that on this channel, and some people went and watched it and had nice comments, and so I appreciate it. But my first career is failed rock star and singer, guitar player, songwriter, singer under duress. I was never a professional singer, but a professional songwriter, guitar player, and more recently, more of late, producer, although I don't really produce for other people, but I produce stuff for projects that I'm doing, music stuff, in addition to producing projects, film and TV stuff. So I have a new song, but it's an old song, but it's a newly finished song. So I have the music. It's still missing the vocals. I'm going to track the vocals, and so thank goodness for like tuning plugins to make sure that it's listenable. I'm a decent singer, but I'm not a lead singer. The world's not missing out on a lead singer named Brendan Davis. I can tell you that. But I know how to do it in the studio. I do know how to create the desired effect, and I know how to tweak it, basically fix it in post. I know how to do that to where it sounds like, okay, it'll sound legit. It won't make your ears bleed. It may not be your style of music, but it won't make your ears bleed. But I'm really happy with the music. I'm tickle pink with it. And I'm resisting the urge daily to post it. Because I really want to finish the vocals, because again, under the hood, behind the scenes, I have a bunch of songs I've written. I just haven't had time to record them. I've done a few, and I have a few that are out, but I haven't had time to do them because ultimately I want to put together a proper songwriter's demo where maybe somebody who's like actually famous might like the song, and then they take it and they sing it, and maybe they redo the music, or maybe my music, the produced music track, is good enough that they just have to add the vocals with their producer. So that's really the goal, is that I have like a whole bunch of songs that sound cool on their own, and that they are their own little compilation, my own little record, if you will. But I'm not trying to be a musical artist. I'm a composer for film and TV, and in this case, writing songs that I would like other people to do. So my vocals will serve that end. My vocals, it'll sound like a finished record, but the goal of it is that ideally somebody who's legitimately like an artist, as a singer, hears it and goes, oh, I like that song, I could do that. And maybe they want to change some of the lyrics and get a writing credit, but maybe they want to change some of the lyrics to more perfectly fit them, but they basically take my song as is otherwise. But I'm really resisting the urge to post that here. That's the kind of thing that definitely belongs on my personal channel, but I don't know. That could be a fun Friday drop, right? That could be the kind of random thing, because the backstory of that is pretty interesting. which I'll save for the video talking about it wherever I do it, whether it's here on the personal channel. But this was a pandemic lockdown era project where I programmed the drums, played all the guitar, played a bazillion guitars, and I had some different amps and guitars available. I had all this stuff available in this apartment in LA where I was locked down during the pandemic, and then before and after. And even after lockdown was over, couldn't really go anywhere, couldn't really travel. So I basically did all of this, and I got a drummer friend to replace my drums in his home studio. I had a bass player friend who had been in my old band, my last professional band from 30 years ago in Atlanta. The other guitar player is now a bass player. He lost a big chunk of his thumb in a industrial accident, so he plays bass. He switched to bass. And so he replaced my programmed bass that I did with the keyboard. But so it's the drummer, Mike Stone. There's a famous prog rock band called Primus that some of you have heard of. Well, they've been around forever, and they've done a lot more than this. But if you know the TV show South Park, they did the theme song. That's not why they're famous. That's an incidental thing, but it's a big deal incidental thing for almost 30 years for them because they've made $1 bazillion in royalties from that. But they're this crazy progressive rock, pop, funk. They're sort of like a Frank Zappa-ish thing. Well, Mike Stone was almost the new drummer in Primus, the guy who played drums on my track, and he's playing really faithfully. I mean, I programmed an absolutely insane part, knowing he was going to do it, that he was going to play the real drums and replace it, and knowing he could do it, and he did that, and then he took it to 11, as they say in Spinal Tap. He elevated it. And then my friend Chris Tinsley of my amazing band in Atlanta called Follow for Now, which was almost famous for 15. We were almost famous for 5 minutes. They were almost famous for an hour, to use the metaphor back in the day. But Chris played a really awesome, nasty, distorted bass line, and it's tons of guitars. So I played all the guitars except the bass guitar and keyboards, and I will be doing the singing. But we basically, the idea was that we would have this virtual band, and I had a bunch of other music, and I have pieces of other things that aren't finished. I have lots of works in progress, but then just life changed. Moved out of LA, moved up to Palo Alto to live in my business partner's house for like the second half of my pandemic, and then reunite with Susie, and then you kind of know the story if you watch this channel. So just no time. I have almost an album's worth of children's songs to record because I make up goofy, funny kids songs all the time. And I've got several that are completely complete, one of which I've recorded, one of which is done, which I have, and I play for Jenny. I may post that here in case anybody has kids. I may actually do the thing where I make like a 2-hour loop of it. So if you have, it's called the Good Night Song. And so it's about getting kids to sleep. And man, it is like, I understand enough about rhythm, and I understand enough about the psychology, the psychoacoustics of sound and audio to have done what I did intentionally. It's meant to hypnotize a child to sleep. And at least with my daughter, it works like a charm. So I might put that out as my gift to any of you with small children. See if it works. I mean, if you burned out on everything else you watch, Coco Melon or Miss Rachel or whatever you use to get the kids to sleep, actually, those kind of entertain the kids and keep them cranked up. But I might put it out. Let me know if you might like a Get Your Kid to Bed song. Free of charge, no charge. I do for you. I put it on the channel. So yeah, that plus my rock and roll projects. If you're interested, no pressure. I'm not offended, but please let me know in the comments. Would you want to see like music and creative kind of stuff here? Would you enjoy that? Maybe you can put that in that Fun Friday slot, right? Better than football if you're not into football, yeah, because everybody likes music of some kind. So to wrap this up, so again, the schedule this week, this podcast, then the live is at Wednesday at 3 p.m., hopefully with me and Susie both. The Hop Out video is Friday at noon, and then the NF International Kickoff video is Sunday at 6 p.m. Susie and I are going to be filming before and after the residence car pickup on Thursday. I really would love your comments and your feedback. I've talked about a lot in this one. Please let me know below what you think about anything that I've said, or if I raised a question or you have a thought. If there's anyone you want to see us interview, let me know. If you're friends with one of these other people in the general world of foreigners in France, or Frenchies who have done overseas, they've been the foreigner overseas. If you're friends with any of these people and you want to, make a warm introduction, that's appreciated to anybody. And yeah, do you think the NFL content fits, given all the caveats and explanation I just gave you? Do you think that fits the music and creative stuff on this channel or elsewhere? Your call. Thank you so much for your support. And it means so much to Susie and I that you're enjoying this. We're real happy to see the channel growing, excited to see new people join us. And if possible, we'll see you on the live Wednesday, 3 p.m. And otherwise, we'll see you soon.